Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Microsoft Flight Simulator with some new sim hardware that I think you guys are going to be very interested in, as it fills a lot of the gaps at a price that is definitely competitive to its competitors. Stick around. One app designed to do it all. Hangar Control brings everything together: control bindings, hardware configuration, mod and profile management, application launching, add-ons, config files, and more, all managed from a single application. Mods Hangar goes beyond just mods and add-ons. It manages profiles, config files, text files, backups, snapshots, and helps keep your community folders clean and organized. Application Hangar launches your entire sim stack with a single click. Your Stream Decks are fully controlled through the Hangar Control plugin, while all of your other Stream Deck plugins remain active and available. Built by a simmer for simmers, Hangar Control adds new features and hardware support every week based on community feedback. It's a one-time purchase with lifetime updates, no subscriptions. You can try it for free for 5 days with no restrictions at overkillsimulations.com. Just create an account, head to your account page, download the latest version, and get started. And if you're looking for in-depth Microsoft Flight Simulator aircraft tutorials, check out my Patreon site. Links to Hangar Control and Patreon are down in the description below. Alright folks, so let's get straight into it. We have this new piece of flight sim hardware from none other than SimPanel. For those who don't know, SimPanel primarily deals with driving and racing button boxes. They have a button box specifically designed for things like American Truck Simulator and then other racing rigs like ignition panels for vehicles and whatnot. So it's nice to see them stepping into the flight simulation hardware arena. And they are coming out with 2 different variants so far. As you can see, we have the ignition panel that is based around both single and twin engine aircraft. This is obviously the twin engine version. This thing comes in at right around $180 US. You can find it on Amazon as we speak here. And then they also have a single ignition panel if you guys want to go that route as well. I prefer the twin engine. I love flying twin engine aircraft, so this was really nice to see. I will say that I have a competitor product of this that is from Desktop Pilot, the ignition panel. So there's going to be some references. It's not to point out one being better than the other, just letting you know where the comparisons are coming from. So as far as pricing and research, I'll let you guys decide which one you think is more fair and the better way to go. I do think both panels are very similar when it comes to quality and overall design. However, this one does seem to have the better on the price point, as long as you're not looking for 100% authenticity, which we'll get into in just a minute. So as far as some of the features that I was really happy with straight out of the box, it has a very nice clean 3D printed shell, very well done. The texturing and labeling across it looks like it has some sort of vinyl layering on top of it for the stickers and whatnot. And of course the LEDs are very nice to see as well if you're someone who enjoys LED backlit. Now, I know a lot of people don't like the branding labels when they come on these kind of pieces of hardware. However, you really can't really blame them when it comes to things like this. You know, especially when you have content creators like myself, people are going to want to know what that is. So, not going to fault them for that. I think it's okay to do. Personally, I understand it. Everyone wants to have their name on their product, and that is completely respectable in my book. Next, this one particular comes in, or both, excuse me, this developer's version comes in with desktop mounting straight out of the box, where its competitor does not. Okay, so if you don't want to use the desktop mounts, these are simply post and tension clamps that go up underneath it. It's a single clamp that goes underneath with a butterfly screw that tightens it up to the desk and pulls down from this point. If you don't want to use those, however, you can plug the holes with these plastic caps that come pre-installed. If you want to use the desktop mount, you simply pop those out and you're good to go. The LED functionality is a really slick system. There's 2 different methods of doing so. I'm going to show you what I find to be the most convenient in this particular set if you don't like using third-party software, which I typically, with anybody, try to avoid as much as possible, just because I prefer single device customization without having to go through a bunch of steps to do so. Let me move this camera just a hair. There we go. That should work better. Okay. So from the software side, it has a configuration window that you simply open it up and you select LEDs and you trigger the switch that you want, and you'll see the steps that ask you to bind it. However, I find this to be a much better way to do it that I'm going to show you guys right now. The other option is straight from the device, and this is what I like. Okay, so because you can do it anytime you want on the fly without a big hassle. You're going to use the number 1 ignition panel if you're on the dual engine system here, and we're going to take this and we're going to move it to the start position. And what we're going to do is we're going to hold this start position for about 10 seconds, much longer than what you would ever want to crank an engine for inside your simulator. If you haven't started your engine in 10 seconds in the sim, you have another problem that you need to find, okay? And if you have an aircraft like the black square aircraft here, if you're holding your start position down for 10 seconds or more, you're probably going to do damage. So what we're going to do is we're going to just twist it and hold it, and we're going to wait for the LEDs to flash. Like I said, it takes approximately 10 seconds, so we'll give it some time. There we go. And we just let it back. When we're on both, let's hope I remember this sequence correct. Both should be the off state. If we move to left, it will be the on state. Okay, so we're going to start with both. And how you change the LED is simply by toggling the switch. So each time you switch a position, the color will change. So here we have an orange color, so we're going to leave that there. Now let's change the reverse position. We're going to go to the left and rinse and repeat. Let's go for blue. So we have blue on one, and I think it was the orange on the other. When we have what we want, we can go over to the start position. But real quick, I do want to show you that even on the magnetos, the same behavior happens. I know my big hand is in the way there, so I'm trying not to. And if you want to do this one, you simply bring it over and do the same thing. Okay, until you find what you want. And then when you have everything set the way you'd like, you've done your various buttons and the positions you want, you simply come back to the start and give it a quick tap. And everything is saved. And so now, there's our 2 different colors that we set there for our different position states. And you can do that across the board. Now, the one thing that I do like with the software, from the software standpoint, you can actually set a single color and have it be all for the off states, and then you can set another color and have it save it all for the on states. Or again, you can do just like we did here and pick from a color wheel and pick by state. But I really like doing it like this better. For me, this was an easier way to sort of get an idea of what is it going to look like when I'm done. Okay, so I really enjoy that. So enough about the LED configuration there. Now let's talk about the overall design and how I feel about it. I really enjoy, obviously, the fact that it has a 2 ignition magneto setup, right? Or, dual magneto setup. The switch positions are very firm. It's a very intentional click. It doesn't feel sloppy. Even turning to the starter position, you really have to hold it just like you would in a real aircraft. The click and tactile feel is fantastic, and that same thing goes for the rockers. All of the rockers are very nice and tight. There's no play, there's no wiggle. It doesn't feel sloppy. You really have to give it a good push to get it into the position that you want. Now, the next piece here that I want to talk about is sort of one thing that I would have liked to have seen done differently, and I hope that this is something that maybe they'll come out with a new version on. And this primarily goes towards, yes, 2D variants. Let me bring the sim volume down. Since we have that jet, let's actually step inside the cockpit so it's a bit quieter. There we go. So, for VR users is where this is really going to hit home, but even on 2D it would be nice. And that's the different style of switches. I really like the rocker switches for your master switches, all 3 of them, avionics, your alternator, and your master battery. But moving into even pitot heat all the way through our lights here, I would have liked to have seen toggle switches. And the reason why is A, it better matches the real world status of most aircraft. Very seldom are you going to see rocker switches in those particular positions. But the idea behind it is tactile feel when like in virtual reality or in a position where you don't want to look down. It's nice being able to just come down, feel what you're looking for, flip the one you want, and know that you're in the right spot. For example, obviously it's going to be very easy to identify the landing gear, right? And be bringing it up and down. Which, by the way, the landing gear is also a nice inclusive point. It really brings the entire electrical panel into a usable state very quickly. Again, same thing with the magnetos. Perfect, great tactile feel, easily identifiable. But that's really my only gripe. The only other thing that I would say is it would be nice is from their software side is the ability to establish toggle state based on sim variable. Now, I will tell you that with the development of hangar control, I am going to be speaking to the developer and see if they'd be interested in maybe offering that feature or unlocking that. But again, until I can speak to them, I obviously don't want to put that kind of pressure on them until we know. So, but for example, when you bring the landing gear up, you can see the transition process begins, even though we're on the ground and it's actually not wired into my aircraft at the moment. And then on down, you get the quick transition light too, which is still a nice feature. I mean, unless you have failures turned on and specifically triggering a landing gear failure, chances are it's going to work 100% of the time in those scenarios. But it might be something kind of fun to be able to trigger and be able to trigger these different lights based on sim variable as another indicator that things are working the way that you would expect. But that's later on. And again, these are minor gripes. Okay. But the overall device, I would say, is a very nice bang for the buck. Feels very, very nicely built. It's nice and strong, no sloppiness. Everything has a great touch to it. It will look great in anybody's simulator. And the fact that you can completely customize the LEDs means it can also match your particular build depending on what other hardware you have this integrated with. And then final compliment to this is that it is essentially nothing more than a button box. And what I mean by nothing more is that you can use it with anything you want. You would not be restricted to using this with just flight simulation or just Microsoft Flight Simulator or just general aviation. You can use it for anything, literally. You could use this in a racing sim if you wanted to. I probably don't know why you would, but like there's your auxiliary, you're on, and you start your car, boom. So that's how I like to look at these types of button boxes, is not just for the key niche that they're designed for, but also what's the expandability of it? What else can I use this product for? And once you find situations like that, it becomes far more valuable to me, especially if anyone who's on a budget but is looking for something that's going to be a very nice enhancement to their simulation experience. The other thing that's nice is a pretty small form factor, guys. I mean, here's my hand to comparison. I mean, it's not much bigger, you know what I mean? So, you know, it's not taking up a whole bunch of space. And I really like the desk mount idea. And if you don't want to use the desk mount, the final piece I want to add is on the back of it, there are two VESA mount points on the back that you can pull the screws out of and mount this to a rig or a VESA mount or something similar, however you wanted to take advantage of these two mounting points here in the back. It's a single USB connection, so very easy, basically plug and play. Like I said, I would just simply download the software and check for firmware updates. But other than that, I think SimPanel has done an absolutely wonderful job stepping into the flight simulation arena. And I'm curious to hear what you guys think down below and what your thoughts are of this particular product. To SimPanel, thank you very much for sharing this product with me, and I'm glad to review it on my channel, and I look forward to seeing what you come up with in the future. As always, folks, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you in the next one.